Hey, Jack.
Hey, Trevor, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. Welcome back to another episode of Hey, Jack, Leadership Reflections with Jack Nalig. Last episode, Jack, was an amazing one. We talked all about positivity, a lot of great takeaways, but today we have a good topic on hand here that I'm personally interested in because it's a leadership topic that I just hadn't considered. So I'm just genuinely curious to hear more insights and how you integrate this a little bit deeper in the leadership. So why don't you tell our listeners what the topic's going to be today, and let's just dive into this.
The topic today of quality and excellence, and you nailed it right away. You were a little surprised about this being a topic in leadership. It's sort of the Rodney Dangerfield of leadership topics. It's the one that doesn't get enough respect, quite frankly. So, gee whiz, I'm dating myself with the Rodney Dangerfield. I'll probably young kids don't even know what I'm talking about, so might want to. Hey, I don't get no respect. Do a little Google and you'll understand Rodney Dangerfield. But it's actually the opposite. It's probably one of the most important disciplines in leadership that really good leaders embrace, right? So this is a differentiator topic, right? You can be mediocre at this topic and still have a job and get by, or if you want to be a really good or great leader, you're probably going to need to lean into this topic a little more than you think.
And I
So,
think that's a really important point here to kind of pause this. There are a lot of these X factors that I think that great leaders display, and some do it consciously, some it might just be naturally embedded in their DNA from their upbringing or whatever it is. And so that's why I appreciate bringing these to light, bringing these to the
yeah.
surface. That way people can understand it, they can hear it, they can start to make a conscious effort towards this. And I do think that's important. So I'm glad to hear that you had mentioned that this is one of those that it gets ignored, but it is so important in being a great leader.
Yeah. And reinforcing that, if you ask people in any position in a company whose job it is to manage or produce quality, they're going to say, "Oh, the quality manager, it's their
That's
job."
what exactly
Right?
what I thought. Yep.
And quite frankly, it's again the opposite, right? You need your entire leadership team embracing quality disciplines to make the company better. A quality manager can only bring the tools and do some assessment work and guide a little bit. But bringing quality and excellence to life is not the quality manager's job. It's the job of the entire leadership team. So that's why I bring it to the podcast today. It is one that's a little bit near and dear to my heart, quite frankly, because I learned my lessons in quality, the good and the bad, and I know this importance, and that's why I wanted to share it. So if you want me to just roll, the first thing we need to think about when you talk about quality and excellence is the backdrop of it. And the backdrop of quality and excellence is simply competition. And everybody watching today, unless they're in a nonprofit, and yes, nonprofits can be a little bit of competition too, like a museum or whatever. You can engage in competition, but mainly nonprofits don't have a lot of competition. But in private industry, competition's sort of the lifeblood and the killer of our businesses, right? If you
Yeah.
the competition makes you stronger, or it could make you weaker, right? So so we need to acknowledge first and foremost that competition drives our businesses in a positive or a negative way. And then that's why we need to look at quality and excellence, right? Because of competition. And the sort of the axiom or the bottom line of competition is if you're not growing, you're shrinking,
Yeah.
at least in market share. And if you're not getting better, you're probably getting worse. And it's with that thought process that I offer quality and excellence as something to think about to solve that problem, right? The problem of competition. So let's go there. So let's first imagine a manager, director, VP, that core of leadership that our podcast is targeted toward. We're not trying to teach CEOs how to get better. We're not trying to teach first line supervisors how to crank out the stuff today, right? We're looking at that middle management group. And any of them, take an accounting manager. What's their job? Okay, they're going to say their job is to, handle the debits and credits, collect the bills, do asset management, post things to the ledger and close the books at the end of the month. Let's say a design leader, let's say a director of engineering. They're going to say their job is to develop new products in a timely way, on budget, keep the innovation going. Or lastly, maybe a VP of manufacturing, his or her job is to, produce all the products that need to be produced so that the revenue can be there, so that the monthly and quarterly targets are hit, and away we go. And in a way, they're right? These are all outputs of their job, right? But sadly, it just doesn't stop there. The more important part of what their leadership job should be is to improve those outputs and spend time daily, weekly, and monthly working on improvement so that the outputs keep getting better and better, not just happen in a consistent way. So, the sad part of the story is what got them into this output job, this leading the output job, is a set of skills that they're really good at, by the way. But the improvement of the output needs a set of skills, and they're different skills. And that's where quality and excellence come in. It's a set of skills and tool sets that help you do the quality and the excellence part so that your outputs get better.
And I would say it sounds almost like a mindset that you have to embrace as well.
Right, exactly. Right. And that's the first part. So let's take it in two pieces. We'll do quality second, excellence first. And you said it, excellence needs to be a mindset, great word, Trevor, and an attitude, right? Of course, who wants to represent a bad product or a bad company? Who wants to run a department and not be so good at what you do? You, of course, want to be thought of as a leader that leads excellence, that does a great job for your company. So, it needs to be a mindset, it needs to be a target, and the best way to remember excellence, and it's tied to quality, is back in the 80s when Toyota came out with Lexus, the brand. Maybe young people know this Lexus brand of cars and they think it's been around forever. Well, it was actually a launch by Toyota as a second brand. And when they came out, they had a slogan that I'll never forget, and I love this slogan today. I think it's the best quality and excellence slogan ever. And their slogan was, and I don't know why they ever dropped it, but it was the relentless pursuit of perfection.
It's a great one.
It's just so powerful. It has that excellence target in it, the perfection part, but it really sums up quality in the first part. And that summing up of the quality part is the relentless pursuit of perfection. And it just tells you they're going to try to get better every day.
And as a consumer hearing that, it puts belief in me.
Right.
With the company.
You acknowledge nobody's
I acknowledge
perfect.
it. I hear it.
If someone says, we're the best of the best of the best, no one's as good as we are, you kind of say, well, I'm going to look for somebody else because maybe there is a better one.
Yeah.
But someone just humbly admitting, look, we're going to just keep trying harder and harder and harder to get better. You as a consumer go, that's kind of the company I want to do business with. That's
exactly
what I like. So now to quality. Quality addresses that pursuit part, right? Now let's step back again. If I ask all those leaders out there about what their job is and whatever and who's in charge of quality, you could also ask them, what is quality? And most of them would give you it's good versus bad, right? High quality product, out of the box is always perfect, or it lasts forever, right? In my old company, we offered a limited lifetime warranty because we found that our products lasted forever.
I was just about to reference that.
Yeah.
That's a big step to back up the pursuit of excellence and quality and so forth.
Well, the lasting forever part really is just the measure of quality. Is it good or bad? It's not about the pursuit because it lasts forever, but because it lasts forever, you probably are doing the improvement part right. So
exactly. It's the underlying X factor.
You could say a cup of water, here's a cup of water, it'll last forever, and there's not much pursuit there, right? It's just what it is. So if you go back to that, right, they'll think it's about good or bad. But it's more than that, right? So at its minimum, it's predictability. That's the good or bad, right? Predictability meaning there's a low quality brand, as long as they keep making low quality stuff, you go, that's predictable, that's who they are, but it's cheap, so I buy it. In a weird way, that's quality. Or a high quality brand. You say, well, they pay more, that's high quality, that's good, so that's predictable. But really, the best way to think of quality is, are you getting better? It's the better part. It's the pursuit part that we mentioned earlier. So when people think of quality as a leader, they should think about not the good and the bad part. That is true, it's there, but they should think, if I'm a good quality leader, I'm working to improve what my team does, what this company does. And that's the setup of the way we ought to think of quality. Now, let's go back in history again. In the 80s and 90s, quality became a big topic in this country. And once again, the automotive industry is usually one that is an icon and reveals things. And the Japanese were beating the U.S. companies in quality, and they were gaining market share like crazy. Their cars were just better. So the country came up with the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. And so it was an award system and a beauty contest, and said, gee whiz, why don't you apply and we'll tell you if you're a winner. That kind of thing. Like the Oscars of quality. Well, the good part of it was there was this assessment document that told you a bunch of best practices that people did in every discipline. And it was by sections. And you had to answer these questions, all these questions about what your company does, and you'd fill it all in, and then they'd give you a grade. And it was in the hundreds. I think 700 and greater was a great company, and 400 and less was a horrible company. But the beauty of that thing, and this is what it did do right, was it was a template or a document to say, wait a minute, we don't even do that thing that you're asking me about. So then people started doing the things that you needed to do to be a great company. So it was a great pilot's checklist, if you will, of, gee whiz, go do this stuff. The award was the award, but people would buy this document and just start making their company better, even if they never applied for the award. So that was the great news. It died off, and it died off mainly because ISO, and a lot of people know what ISO means, their company is probably ISO certified. ISO came along, and it was that same idea. It was a whole list and certification of what you need to do. But the certification part became part of it. And then you had auditors that would check you yearly or every triannual, every third year, to make sure you're doing what's in that document. And then the beauty is they made it about improvement. It actually started only as, do you document what you do? Do you have policies, procedures written down so the workers know what to do? And then do they do what you document? That's how it all started with ISO. But then they bolted on the third part, which is, do you improve what you do?
And it sounds like they went from, this is now the standard, or the minimum expectations, another way if you want to frame it a different way, to now we're rolling out realizing there's a need for improvement.
Right.
To go above and beyond.
Right, exactly. And so then, after everybody started embracing ISO, building all their nice procedures, that it was a massive effort in everybody's company to even document what they do. A lot of people had people doing stuff that wasn't even written down. They just told them to go do it. So there was a big documentation job. And then there was this training people on the documentation. And then there was the involvement of people to improve it. And then came along Lean and Six Sigma. They were big disciplines. The Japanese used Lean. Now Toyota uses the Toyota production method, which is based off of a lot of Lean principles. But Lean and Six Sigma simply answered the question, how do I improve? What's the right way to improve? Okay, I want to improve. But what is the toolkit to improve? So then everybody started embracing Lean and Six Sigma, and then that sort of brought the ISO world to life, right? Companies were actually really getting better and at a fast pace. So, and then you bolt on one more, I would say Agile is a great one now for design efforts. Agile in software and design, how to design things better and faster. So that's another discipline that's come along. So that's sort of the story of where you go from excellence to quality. And the way to sum quality up, there's an acronym. So maybe, we all love acronyms to help us remember, and not Lean Six Sigma, Agile, ISO, Macromoody. That's hard, right? But at the fundamental in all of the lean processes and all the quality improvement philosophies is this concept called DMAIC. And DMAIC is define something, write your procedures down, measure them, analyze the data, improve it based on the data, and then control it, and then do it all again.
Do it again.
Right?
Just repeat the process.
So it's called DMAIC, DMAIC, and it's sort of the summary icon of the whole quality movement to me. And so if companies don't know or leaders don't know what DMAIC is, that's your first eye-opener on today's podcast. If you are a leader today in any decent industrial company, manufacturing company that we're talking about, and you've never heard the name DMAIC, you've got a lot of work to do in your mind to become a better leader on quality and excellence, because it is the fundamental of any team. You could be an accounting leader, a sales leader, marketing leader, an HR leader. If you're not doing DMAIC, then you're not working on making your company better, and that's the challenge. So,
yeah,
so that's the quick story. Go ahead.
No, I was just. I think that's a great point that you just mentioned, that this can be applied at an individual role level,
yeah,
from a leader standpoint. And I think naturally, coming into this episode, I always just think of quality and excellence related to the physical product itself, right? Because that's just kind of what we've had, pushed to us, and the content we consumed has always just been in that context. But now when I look at this, I look at it from this lens of, if you look at companies that are consistently growing up and to the right, there's probably traits in there in some way, shape, or form they've got ingrained within their culture, within their vision and philosophy, to constantly be focusing on quality, excellence, and ongoing improvement.
Yeah.
Versus some companies might have great years, but there could be an outlier event, right?
Yeah.
And so I really think when you pull back all the layers here, this is so important for leaders, because if you can get everybody on board focusing on, quality and excellence, that is ultimately what's going to take those companies up to the far right. And one thing I always appreciated that you did was have these quarterly business update meetings, mm-hmm, where you would bring in the entire company and you would show us, what's going well, what's not going well, what we're focusing on. But it was this sense of alignment that you would walk out of these meetings and you could just even hear the chatter around. Nobody felt like it was doomsday, even if it was a tough time in the economy or something like, because everybody knew, hey, that's the information we received, but we have a plan in place, and we know we're striving for quality and excellence. There's a target there. And I think that's honestly one of the key things to keep companies moving up and to the right in that growth chart, mm-hmm, and longevity, I would even say.
Well, and you hit it. Individual leaders can participate in the improvement of the company through quality and excellence work. But when you ask most people, what drives your company's growth, they would say one of two things, right? They would say innovation. Mm-hmm. What is our product or service, and is it cool and different? So the innovation part. And then the second would be strategy. Oh, we're really cool in our strategy. We deploy it differently than other. We found a niche, or we do this, or we do that. So most leaders in the company go, well, it's our innovation, our strategy to help us grow. Well, if you work on quality, and you're an accounting leader and you go, well, we don't do that much in the innovation and the strategy part. That's the boss's jobs, and we just go process the money and make sure everything's flowing nicely. So, but if the accounting manager thinks, wait a minute, what if I can do our job faster, lower cost, less errors, less waste? It provides capital and investment money available so that we can do those other things better.
Yeah.
So really, it's you're right. It's a grassroots discipline that all leaders should embrace. It's as important as things we mentioned earlier in previous podcasts as ethics and integrity. It's that grounded, and it's just an amazing discipline that if people do it, they'll get great rewards. Back to your quarterly meetings that you enjoyed at our former company. We also created another meeting, which was quality management reviews, and now they're called out at ISO. And what those reviews have to be is they're not quarterly. I think they're 3 times a year. You have to have these meetings. It's prescribed in the ISO documents. It's getting the upper management together to review all the metrics of quality. To sit there and say, are we happy with this?
Yeah.
Right? So when I first got there, we had those meetings, and I'll tell you, they were sleepers. And a lot of my leaders were like, they wouldn't say a peep because they couldn't wait till the meeting was over.
Yeah, just check the box.
And when I left, everybody would come, and we were all doing a lot of dialogue during the meeting, because that's the leader's job, is to debate whether we're measuring the right things, debate whether that trend is good enough, debate whether we got to the root cause of a certain problem. And that triennial review was leadership's responsibility in the quality system. And it flowed down. Once we all started doing it, then the rest of the leaders, of course, were like, okay, they weren't at the meeting, but things came out of that meeting, and then that leader was trying to drive an action item to make sure things got better. So leadership involvement in quality is just paramount. It's so necessary and can be such a great differentiator in competition. So if you want, I'll give you 3 little stories to wrap it up today.
Yeah, let's hear them.
So one about your individual participation you were mentioning earlier too. When I was a young manager coming up, my division of the company that I was in prior to my last one, they decided they were pursuing this Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. And then you had this massive 75-page document to write. So the general manager was smart, and he got a whole bunch of managers to all grab a little section. Everybody had a little section. So there had to be, I don't know, there were 7 main, 5, there were probably 35 sections.
Oh, wow.
That's a guess. You could look it up. And so we had 35 managers, leaders, writing a little section. Everybody's writing their section. So we put it all together, and then the big general manager was reading the whole document. I got 7.6.2. And the last one was 7.6.3. So I was like second to last.
Okay.
Because I was just this little green manager and an unimportant kind of person. And mine was all about, how do you measure customer satisfaction? Pretty simple question. So I'm like, I can handle this. So I do some walking around. Of course, find out immediately we don't do any customer satisfaction measurement. There's nothing going on. No emails to customers asking them what they thought of us. No paid money to a consultant company to do multiple company stuff. Nothing. 0. So I wrote up this dumb paragraph about how we had 98% quality, and that correlates to 98% customer satisfaction. If the products are good, the customers must be happy.
Yeah.
Which really, in hindsight, was a dumb thing, but that's what I wrote. I wrote something like that. So, as you can imagine, I get a phone call one day from this general manager, and he says, Jack, I read the 762 although that might be very true, we don't do anything. What you wrote isn't enough either. Like, you sure, can't you come up with something? And he was pushing me to go dig further. And I said to the gentleman, I'll leave his name out, he's a great guy. I said, I've looked everywhere. There's just nothing to do. And he was getting grumpy, and I was getting defensive, and it just ended. And he finally said, all right, that's what we're going to do. We're going to put it in, and you're going to see that this is a problem. And he also said to me something like, and as you know, because this isn't good, we need leaders to make it better. That's going to be our learning here, that kind of thing. And of course, he was right. We set it in. They came back. They said, "You guys suck. We got 0 points for that section," and and I got put on a team to create customer satisfaction measurement activities. Right. But that was a big moment for me, and I highly applaud that general manager because he was leading it. Like, he was accountable for the quality of the company. He felt accountable. He wasn't a quality manager story, right? It was, he felt this was important. And that was sort of the genesis of my attitude toward quality and excellence. So 2 more other quick ones. Many people know this, but Toyota, because of their Toyota manufacturing program and their embracing of lean early on, they got way ahead of U.S. car manufacturers. And, competition is a race. And if somebody gets ahead, and if they keep staying ahead, they're going to keep staying ahead, right? Well, they were so dedicated to these lean principles, which turned out to be, even on a weekly basis, leaders, managers in these production plants, they have a department. They're expected weekly to analyze everything they're doing and improve it, and sometimes through like reorganizing the whole production system every week. Even if they did it last week, they do it again next week. It's incredible.
Wow, that's.
But the big takeaway from Toyota versus the U.S. car manufacturers is, you can find this out by doing some Google. It's estimated that there's half as many labor hours in a Toyota car compared to an American car today.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that.
So half.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
And that's how efficient they are, because they've embraced lean as a quality discipline. And that's, I don't know, you probably measured in thousands of dollars, right? Maybe mid-thousands of dollars of advantage Toyota has in the cost of a car because of that fact. And then the last story I'd offer today, I heard from a speaker one time, 5-10 years ago, which was very fascinating to me, that if you go out and look at any Olympics that happened, so the last Olympics, and pick any timed race, right? A swimming race, a running race, a bicycle race, or whatever, and you look at the gold medal winner's time, most of the time, the next Olympics, but almost all of the time, 2 Olympics later, that gold medal winning time doesn't even qualify for the finals.
Yeah. I've heard a variation of this before.
So
with the stats.
So you can't tell me quality and improvement and excellence aren't important. If you want to win a gold medal, you know they are.
Yeah.
You know they are. So those would be my 3 offerings of a story today. The bottom line is, and we said at the very outset of this, Trevor, that quality and excellence are the leadership disciplines that often get thought of last or not thought of so much.
Yeah.
And I would encourage every growing, aspiring leader, inspiring hopefully, and aspiring leader out there to do a checkup on themselves and say, how much do I embrace excellence as an attitude, and how much of my time do I spend with my team helping improve our operation and our company in general. And I think everybody would, by definition, have room for improvement, right? So
yeah. I would agree, and I think this is such a great topic. Eye-opening for me, for sure. I think this is something we can talk about in a future episode, but the key difference or differences or, approach, there's probably many different ways to approach this, but you have managers and then you have leaders. And right off the onset here, this to me is really embodied within a leader.
Yeah.
Right. To your point, when I first, walked into the leadership arena, as we'll call it, this was the mentality I've always had, is just try to improve things. But I've never really stepped back and looked at it in this lens. It was just something I just naturally did. Just want to always, improve what I touch or make things better. But what we talked about today, I think it's going to help a lot of individuals.
Yeah.
I really do. So I
Well, we
appreciate
truly
you sharing
hope so.
that. Yeah. So that's it for today. Hopefully everybody listening learned something here today that you can implement. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks a lot,
Thanks,
Jack.
Trevor. Go lead, everybody.
Yep, go lead.